Hello everyone, my name is George and I started a conversation here on Facebook about wedding, about traditional marriage and church wedding and all that. So a lot of people actually are misunderstanding the whole thing. A lot of people are misunderstanding the intent of making those posts of triggering the conversations. All right, so I am actually making this video to put clarity where I think it's necessary, because a lot of people are having issues with what you are saying, not because you are not making sense, not because they don't even know that what you are saying is true, but they are having issues because you are the one saying it. Some of them are wondering who gave you the rights, who gave you the effrontery, what audacity do you have to talk about these things. Some people are seeing it that you are not supposed to be the one to talk about it. All right, so some people have issues with the fact that I am the one saying it, not with what I am saying. All right, so but because I really want to bring clarity, and I'm not trying to overflog the issue, but I just want to make this video because sometimes people also read their own emotions into what we are saying. So when somebody is angry with me, or when somebody's primary perception about me is bad, when somebody has a bad perception about me, the first thing they have in mind when reading my post is, they're reading it from a defensive mood or from an attack mood. They're not reading to understand. They don't have an open mind towards me or towards my opinion. All right, so my name is George and I want to put a summary to this conversation to make my stand very clear. All right, so I started talking about church wedding and traditional marriage. And the point is this. The point is that throughout the scriptures, throughout both the Old Testament and the New Testament, there was not a single place where it was mentioned that it is a pastor's or a priest's responsibility to handle wedding, to officiate wedding, to hand over a man to his wife, or to hand over a woman to her husband. There is no single place where you will find that in the scriptures. And of course, if we say we are believers, and if we say that that the Bible is our final authority when it comes to doctrine, why is it becoming a problem when we begin to raise scriptural issues? Now, I want you to understand my motive. My motive is not to rubbish church wedding. That is where some people are getting me wrong. That is where some people are getting it wrong. My motive is not, thank God I'm married. And I ended up doing both traditional marriage and church wedding. One of the reasons why I had to do this is to show people that I am not necessarily against these things, but we have to get these things right. Now, why do we demonize people who ended up just having traditional marriage? Why do we tell people that if they end up having just their traditional marriage, that they are fornicating if they are living together? A lot of people today are still living in guilt. Being someone who have interacted with so many people, being someone who has been privileged to get messages, to get people asking questions, people who are confused about certain things, being someone who is privileged to have some of this access to people's private lives, I can tell you for sure that there are people who are still living in guilt today simply because they did not do church wedding. And this is where this truth becomes very important. I want to show you something. Throughout the Bible, there is no single place where you find wedding ceremonies. You know, there was no place where wedding ceremony was elaborated. You know, the Bible never talked about wedding ceremonies, and most times whenever the Bible is silent on issues, whenever the Bible is silent on certain things, especially things that were also very very loud in the Bible days, when the Bible is silent on those issues, then it means they are not important. It means they are not necessary. For example, when we talk about wedding, some people argue that God wedded Adam and Eve. But when you look at the story very well, you see that Adam and Eve were married simply for the fact that God brought Eve to Adam, and Adam accepted Eve. By that acceptance, marriage was established. That's all. By that acceptance, marriage was established. When we go further to, the Bible never really talked about how Abraham and Sarah got married. There was no details on that. The Bible never talked. We also see Isaac and Rebecca. We see how they got married. Okay, now let's fast forward it, because you may say, well, that the time of Abraham and all that, there were no such priests, there were no Levites and all that. Okay, so it may be relevant to actually, the argument is relevant. All right, now let's go fast forward to the time of Jesus. The only time we saw a wedding in the time of Jesus' physical presence on earth was that Jesus himself was a wedding guest. He didn't officiate wedding. He did not officiate the wedding. He was just a guest. And the only place, maybe when we begin to search the scriptures, maybe we want to find a wedding ceremony. We want to find a place where somebody wedded somebody. If we want to search that far, we may have to be looking at the Apocrypha. We will see that in the Old Testament, we will see that in the New Testament, but what some people call the Catholic Bible, you may have to search there for you to see it. You should look at Tobit chapter 7 from verse 12 to 14. That is where you will see a story. And I'm going to read that. I'm going to read that. Tobit chapter 7 from verse 12 to 14. It was talking about okay, I won't bore you with the reading, but I'm just going to tell you what happened there. From verse 13, we see a marriage ceremony taking place, and Raguel called his daughter, and when she came in, he took her by the hand and gave her to Tobias with his blessings. And he said, "Take her to be your wife, according to the teachings in the law of Moses. Take her safely with you to your father's house. May the God of heaven give you a happy life together." You know, for most of us Protestants, we don't establish doctrine with Apocrypha. We don't establish doctrines with these books we call uncanonical books. We don't establish doctrines with it. But I had to go this far to show you that if you look from Old Testament to the New Testament, there is no single place where you will see a pastor giving the hand of someone in marriage to somebody else. We usually saw that marriage was a family affair. It was always a social issue. And this is the closest we can get if we want to really say that there is something like a scriptural marriage ceremony. The closest we can get is that it's a family issue. When you also read the story of Joseph and Mary, you don't see any priest officiating wedding. You don't see that. You don't see anything like that. You understand me now? Now, like I said before, the essence of this thing is not to attack any of your doctrine. It's not to attack any of your doctrine, to attack any of your traditions and all that. The essence of this is to make people understand that God recognizes marriage when two persons agree to become husband and wife and the family approves of it. God recognizes the marriage. The essence of all these arguments is not to attack any church culture and all that. That, I really needed to make this clear. The essence of all this is not to attack any church doctrine. It's not to tell you that your church is doing it right or is not doing it right. The essence is to set people's conscience free. The essence is to make people understand that no matter what a pastor tell you, you are not fornicating as long as you and somebody agreed to get married and your parents, you followed the person's culture and all that, you fulfilled the necessary things. Now, come to think of it, when people argue that you have to wed in church or else you are fornicating, when people argue that, why do they still recommend that you go to the woman's village and fulfill all the traditional requirements? Why is it now necessary? Why is it a necessity? Why can't a pastor just join two persons together and that's it? The truth is that with the current structure of wedding ceremonies, it is, even if you don't want to do reception, the stress is too much. The stress is too much. People think that we are just being revisionists, that we are people who just want to, that we talk simply because we want to talk. People think that we talk simply because of clout. That is not the truth. The truth is that we want to set people's conscience free. We want people to live without guilt. We want people to understand that their marriage has been established. If there is anything like being established in heaven, their marriages has been established in heaven. We want people to understand that. We want people to know that even if they did not wed in church, as long as the Bible says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor in God's sight, it is still valid to marriages that were officiated by parents, if there's anything like that. I needed to make this very clear. But now let me show you something, because if you really want us to go back to history, we will still do that. Let me show you something. I noted it down. The Catholic Church, for example, because the early church had nothing like church marriage, like church wedding. The early church had nothing like that. The Catholic Church never even required that priests were going to officiate marriages until the year 1563. 1563 is like approximately 1,500 years after Christ has come and gone. Like 1,500 years after the church had begun. So after 1,500 years, the Catholic Church, made it a law that the priests have to officiate marriages. And the Anglican Church did not make these requirements until 1753. So, all the years before 1753, how were people getting married? So, all the years before 1563, how were people getting married? Now, you see that we are actually having a valid argument. We are having a valid conversations. And people think that we are attacking the traditions of the fathers. Which fathers, if I may ask? People think that we are shaking the culture of the church. Which church, if I may ask? What is the basis of this culture? What is the basis? Does it really, now let me tell you something. The role of a pastor is to teach and nurture his members. Is to teach and nurture them, because I want to debunk some of the arguments people started bringing up in the course of this conversation. Number one, somebody said that one of the reasons why we have to do church wedding is so that because the vow has to be taken in God's presence. And Jesus said, where 2 or 3 gather in my name, I am in their midst. Now, I believe that Christian marriage simply means the union of 2 believers. Christian marriage simply means the union of 2 believers. There are millions of marriages that have scattered today, yet these marriages started with a Christian wedding. It started with church wedding. It started with vows. There are millions of unfaithful people today because somebody else said that the reason for church wedding is because, they try to make it seem as if by taking the vow, the man becomes faithful. The truth is that there are millions of people who took the vows, but they are not faithful. They have various baby mamas. They are not faithful. They took these vows in church, but they are not faithful. Now let me tell you something. Okay, there are also people that said that the essence of church wedding is so that people undergo marriage class and all that. And I ask this question: what then is the essence of the church? What then is the essence of the Sunday services, Wednesday services, foundation classes and all that? What's the essence if we cannot teach believers the word of God? If we cannot teach believers the culture of believers, if we cannot teach believers how to be a good Christian husband, how to be a good Christian wife, all of these things are things that we're supposed to be teaching believers every time. We don't have to wait till they announce that they want to get married before we begin to teach them these things. We don't have to wait for a believer to say, okay, I'm getting married, and then we start saying, okay, you have to attend our class. No. But of course, you may also say that it's relevant for couples to be counseled together so that they are sure if they are making the right decision. It's also true. But of course, you can still counsel people together, and it doesn't have to be wedding. It doesn't have to be when they want to do wedding. It doesn't have to be. And the truth is that somebody else said something, because I'm trying to bring up all these issues that people raise and address it. Somebody else said that a lot of people will not agree to bring their pastor to their traditional marriage to bless their marriages. Now, let me tell you something. The problem, it's a problem of teaching. Because if pastors can really agree, if they can really agree and say the truth that this thing we are doing as church wedding is not necessarily biblical, it's just something we inherited, something we borrowed, something we are just dealing with. If they can agree and begin to teach believers, and begin to hammer on it, and begin to keep emphasizing on it, keep asking people questions. Do you really think it's, when somebody, let's say that somebody wants to wed, comes to meet the pastor, and pastor is like, do you really think it's necessary to spend this amount of money to do traditional marriage and also do this one? Do you really think it's necessary? When pastors begin to emphasize on this and begin to tell the believers, or begin to tell them the need, why it's important to make the church become part of their traditional marriage planning and all that. When we begin to do this thing over and over again, you see that church wedding will no longer be necessary. Okay, somebody else said that you need to inform that the essence of church wedding is so that you inform the Christian community that you are getting married. Let me tell you the truth. That's not true. Because, of course, when you did your trad, everybody knew you did your trad. And again, somebody said that by wedding in church, it means that the woman is being protected. The truth is that you can still protect the woman without wedding in church, because most churches will require you must do traditional marriage, 1. 2, you must go to the registry. You must go to the registry. Most churches requires that. You must. So meaning that we even do 3 weddings. You do traditional one, you do registry, then you do church. What's the essence? Like, we have to agree on this truth. I threw up a challenge on Facebook and I said, if you can show me one single verse in the Bible, in fact, search even the Catholic Bible, the Apocrypha, search all the Bible you can search the Old Testament, search the New Testament, search the Apocrypha. If you can show me one place where it is the priests or pastors or prophets or evangelists or anybody's responsibility aside the family to hand over couples together, to hand over couples to each other or to bless their union. If you can show me one place, I promised anybody that will show me 100,000. I promised anybody that, because I know nobody will show me that. Now, in summary, like I said, the essence of bringing up that conversation is not to attack any church doctrine, because people usually think that whenever we speak the truth, whenever we teach the truth, that we're trying to attack a church, or that we are trying to attack a doctrine, or that we're trying to garner fame for ourselves, or that we're trying to sound different, or that we're trying to sound deep. That is not true. Me, for one, I can speak for myself. I am passionate about telling people the truth. Nothing will ever make me stand up and start lying to people. If it's actually going to make me have a lot of pastor enemies or enemies, because a lot of people, sorry about that, because a lot of people seems to hate you for taking a stand. A lot of people seems to hate you for taking a stand. When you take a stand, they will try to blackmail you emotionally to make you feel like you are shoving your doctrine down their throat simply because you took a stand. But they themselves, they've also taken a stand, and they feel nothing is wrong with them taking a stand, but everything is wrong with you taking a stand. So, like I said, the essence of this video, or the essence of the post I made, the essence of bringing up that conversation is to let people who started living together after traditional marriage, to let them know that they are not fornicating, to let them know that they did not displease God one bit, to let them know that whatever they did, they are still on the right path. They've gotten married. Heaven recognizes their marriage. And of course, anybody that will be faithful will be faithful. Anybody that won't be faithful, even if the person goes to court, even if the person does a registry marriage and all that, the person will not be faithful. The person will be living in unfaithfulness secretly. All right. So I just needed to make that clear. And before I sign out, I also want you to understand that regardless if you've been having a different opinion from me, I still honor you. I don't really, a lot of people make a big deal out of these things simply because I have a different perception to certain things. A lot of people see it as, I don't know how to put it, but a lot of people see you as an enemy for having a different opinion from them. But I don't care about those things. I believe that what unites us is bigger than the minor issues. As long as you believe that Jesus Christ is Lord, as long as you believe in Jesus Christ, I believe that we can work together. I believe that that we have more reasons to work together than reasons not to work together. Thank you very much, and I call you blessed.